Hello?
Hi, good evening, and welcome to United MUFON. I'm here tonight in Paris, Tennessee, and it's finally on the warming side. We have all survived, as I see many of you have, the polar plunge that we all experienced last week, many of us. And I am so glad to say spring is coming, and I can't wait. It has been freezing cold, and we had snow and every other thing. So I know a lot of you have. So don't give up. The warm weather is coming. Lots to be excited about. Our local meetings are beginning to regroup all over MUFON, and again, all over the states. And a lot of UFO sightings are happening. They really seem to be on the rise right now. And we have a lot of changes to talk about this month here at MUFON, and some of them are, I wanted to start out with this to just kind of mention this up front first before we get into everything else. We have had a lot of bad news here at MUFON. We've lost a part of our MUFON family and others as well. And I wanted to start out with just mentioning the names of these wonderful folks that have been with us for such a long time and have dedicated so much of their lives to what's been going on here at MUFON and working with all of you. Susan Burtonen with Minnesota MUFON passed away. She was the state director, a CAG member, and also worked with the ERT. She was a valued and very dedicated FI, and she'll be greatly missed by all of us. And we have also lost our state director for Tennessee, Angelia Shear, in her short battle with cancer. She was really only had that for about 3 months. And unfortunately, she lost that battle quickly. It just shockingly took her life in. And she was also part of the ERT and the STAR team and CAG as well. She left behind a daughter, Shanna, and her husband, Dale Houston. And we surely will miss them both. That's just so incredibly sad. And then we also have lost Clifford Stone this month. And Clifford was the front runner in UFO crash retrievals during his time in while he was in the Army. And he befriended and captured extraterrestrials and wrote an amazing book, Clifford Stone's Eyes Only. Those experiences changed his life. He shares with everyone, and it's just an amazing book. Please get it if you haven't already. And we certainly have lost a real treasure in him. And I'll go on to, on a brighter note. I just really wanted to mention that up front first, because we're going to really miss these people. The FBI has now confirmed that they are aware of the American Airlines UFO report. They did not say they are officially investigating it. However, the incident is under further investigation, and it does remain a mystery. The good news is the increase in UFO coverage and reporting in mainstream media is raising public awareness, and that's a good thing. About how prominent and well documented the UFO subject is. And I'd like to hear your thoughts about that. If you could send them to me at dom@mufon.com. What does the reality of the UFO phenomenon mean to you? And does it change your worldview at all? Please send me those, and then we can talk about that next month. I've found that MUFON has a wonderful group of dedicated and passionate and committed officials to work with us here at MUFON. And we start with our certified field investigators, state section directors, assistant state directors, chief investigators, and state directors. These appointments within MUFON are promotions that are earned through hard work and dedication. It takes a lot of very loyal people to fly the MUFON banner, and everybody does 100%. Everybody that's on board really does, and we just want to thank you. And I'd like to congratulate all our newly appointed certified field investigators and new MUFON appointees, as well as all other state officials. We are really elated to see all the changes in the members and the growth here at MUFON. It keeps us a strong and resilient organization, which is dedicated to the benefit of humanity. Thank you all so much for your support and all that you do. All of these folks volunteer their time. I don't know if everybody knows that, but everybody with MUFON is a volunteer. So we have this huge volunteer army, and these people volunteer their finances and their time, definitely their energy, to help humanity understand what's happening in ufology in the 21st century. And that's no small thing, really. You know, there's a lot going on and a lot to report, lots of sightings. They research case after case with the scientific method and work diligently to come to conclusions about the witness reported documentation submitted on our CMS, which is known to those within MUFON as the case management system. There is no one who does what MUFON does. We investigate and have been doing that for the last 52 years, and we're very proud of what we do. We're immensely proud of our volunteers. They are the undeniable backbone of MUFON for sure, and I really applaud you all for what you do. A real desire of mine has always been to reach out to introduce MUFON to those who haven't yet heard of us, and there are so many who really haven't heard about us. This is my reason for meeting here tonight and to being a part of MUFON. Is because I'd really like to get this information out there and make MUFON a word that you hear it and you know exactly what it's all about. You know, so many people say, what is that? So that's what we're going to do tonight. I'm going to talk about what we are and what we do. And some states in the United States don't have state directors with MUFON. And they will, as we move forward and people come on board who can hold local meetings. And I'd like to encourage people that are watching tonight to get involved and become an FI and move up the ranks to become a state director. We really need state directors right now. We need valued members. There are so many interesting paradigms in the world of UFO research, which are constantly changing, and we'd like you to be a part of that with us. MUFON has so much to offer all of us, so we have a lot of ground to cover and discuss tonight. From our enlightening journal to our amazing symposiums, our bookstore, our white papers and strange case encounters, MUFON TV, our podcasts, our merchandise. There's so much, UFO tech notes, one-on-one interviews, and our local Zoom and United MUFON meetings. There is just so much going on all the time, and we'd like for you to be a part of that. So please join us. Our MUFON members, if you don't have a state meeting, please support your state directors and maybe encourage them and start a MUFON meeting in your area. A lot of people are emailing me and asking me, do we have a meeting here? Do we have a meeting there? And we only have those meetings if we have state directors or state section directors, assistant state directors, or chief investigators that can hold those meetings. So if you want to have a meeting, jump in and make it happen, because it doesn't really take that long. And we'd love to have you. We'd love to have you aboard. To state directors, if you are having meetings and you would like to post them in the journal, please contact hq@mufon.com and ask for Marquetta. She'll get your information posted for you. She has a deadline of the 9th of every single month to put your information in, where you meet, that kind of thing. So please make a note of that, okay? And our next MUFON meeting is going to be March 27th, so please register for that. We'll have a guest speaker, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So please just make a note of that date. And I'll always try to keep the meetings at 7 p.m. Central Time. I also want to remind you all to please mute your mics, because we are live, and if we start talking, we can actually hear you on, and hear dogs barking or things like that. So please mute your mics while we're on tonight. Each month, I like to present MUFON stats, some type of an interesting MUFON case, answer some of the questions that you've sent me, and also do an engaging case presentation or invite a fascinating guest speaker, which is what we have done tonight. We'll have a roundtable discussion as well at the end of each meeting with the questions and answers. So after tonight's meeting with Margie Kay, we will have a question and answer time for you. So for tonight's meeting, we'll discuss who we are, like I said, and what we do. And we'll look at the MUFON stats and discuss a little MUFON business. I'll share some of my experiences as we go along. I'll take as many questions after the presentation as will Margie Kay. And you can put your questions in the chat bar, and it's being monitored, so someone will bring me those questions. So thank you so much for being here tonight, and let's move forward and see what we're doing here. What is MUFON? The Mutual UFO Network. Well, we are the oldest and largest UFO investigative organization in the world, with a huge member base adding to it very, very much every day, represented in all 50 states and 40 countries, with thousands of trained volunteer field investigators. And we have over 50 PhD consultants in most disciplines. MUFON does conduct scientific investigations of the UFO phenomenon, while other agencies are just reporting agencies. We're doing all the work, and we're glad to do it. That's our passion here. We were established in '69. And for the past 51 years, MUFON has compiled a database of over 175,000 UFO reports. And the CMS case management system was developed in 2006. And that's how we track what is going on all over the United States and abroad. As MUFON has evolved, we now monitor abductions and entity cases as well. So how do we investigate? Well, we investigate by using the scientific method, which is something that I spoke about earlier. And we use computer sciences, biology, astronomy, physics, chemistry, geology, engineering, and stats. That is the scientific method. Also, our mission statement, the reason we're here, what we do, our goals are we investigate UFO sightings, abductions, and entity cases, and we promote research on UFOs with an eye towards science. And we educate the public on the UFO phenomenon. And, you know, some people say, well, who are you and who's behind all of this? Well, we have founding members that are still on the board of directors with us. John Schuessler, who is a founding member, started MUFON with his wife and a handful of people in his garage. And here we are all these years later, 52 years later. Dave McDonald is our executive director. And we have Tom Whitmore, who is a MUFON benefactor, and he investigates the MJ-12 cases. And myself, I'm the director of memberships and also on the board. And Debbie Ziegelmeyer, who is our Missouri state director and our USO underwater person that is on the dive team with MUFON for anything that is underwater USOs. Rob Switek, who is our physicist, and that's who we'll be spotlighting tonight. Richard Beckwith, who is our Wyoming state director and also a MUFON attorney. Sandy Clevin, who is a psychologist, and also Ken St. John, who is MUFON's COO. Now, there you have it. That's our board of directors. And our spotlight tonight is on Rob Switek. Robert has had a curiosity about space, aeronautics, and UFOs all his life, from launching rockets as a boy to working as an intern at NASA's during college. Robert has only continued to increase his knowledge of conventional space vehicles as well as unconventional UFOs. His degrees in physics and earth science have paved the way for a career at the U.S. Patent Office, where he is a physics examiner in aerospace technology. Robert has lectured at conferences throughout the U.S. and contributed writing to numerous UFO projects and titles, especially for the Fund for UFO Research, which is also known as FUFOR. Robert is frequently seen turning up on the Discovery or the History channels in various productions. His aggressive debating style on programs such as Larry King Live has won him accolades from many in the field. He has served as secretary, treasurer of both FUFOR since 1986 and the UFO Research Coalition, which is URC, since 1997. Robert has been on the board of directors with MUFON since 2004, and he is currently assisting in editing the MUFON Journal and is a wonderful addition to many other projects here at MUFON. Rob currently resides in Virginia with his wife, Susan, and we are so happy to have him a part of MUFON because he never stops working. He is just really awesome. Now, we have a new Tennessee state director, and because I'm in Tennessee, I want to mention that. As I mentioned earlier, Angelia Shear had passed away. And so our new Tennessee MUFON state director is Josh Cross. He's a STAR team member, and he joined MUFON in 2015 and became a field investigator in 2016. And he served Tennessee MUFON as a state section director and assistant state director for the past 3 years. And I know that his background is in paramedics, EMS, and he's been with them since 1998. So he's a very welcome part of the team here in Tennessee. And we'd like to just do a shout out to him and say, we're glad you're on board. We look forward to working with you. So let's talk about what is going on out there. Of all the UFO reports that have been received here at MUFON, about 15% of those are actually real solid objects. The others are misidentifications, optical illusions, stars, sometimes planets, hoaxes, and even hallucinations. But what about those remaining 15%? Well, that's the reason I'm here, actually. That's what led me here, to find out what happened to me. And this is the reason for MUFON's existence, to find out what's happening. If you've had a story or if you've had an experience at all, you are not alone, and no experience is too bizarre to share. And we keep all of your information here in MUFON. So if you'd like to get in touch with us and tell us what's been going on, please do so at MUFON.com. We have an experiencers resource team called the ERT, and these people are dedicated to helping experiencers of alien contact. Our director is Kathleen Martin. She's known around the world. Her aunt and uncle, Betty and Barney Hill, had an experience that is just amazing. I'm sure many of you know who she is. But if you would like to share something with us, just take those first steps towards understanding by completing the short experiencers questionnaire at the link there. And by doing so, you can confidentially share your experience with someone who can help you find answers. And we are dedicated to that, so please do so. We would like to hear from you. A little bit of MUFON business I'll get into real quickly. As MUFON's Director of Membership, I would like to invite you to join MUFON if you haven't already. MUFON members will receive either an electronic or hard copy monthly journal. And our journals include so much. They're just packed. They're beautiful. They're color journals now. They have articles by leading ufologists, symposium information, UFO sighting reports, one-on-one interviews, abduction cases, mutilations, and crop circles, just to name a few. And it's very affordable. For $59.88 for an entire year, you can get that hard copy journal. And I'm telling you, I love mine. I wait for mine to come every single month. Just log on to MUFON.com and you can order yours today. And if you'd like to upgrade your MUFON membership, if you're a current member and you'd like to get included in your membership, the MUFON TV, we now have that available for $119.88 for the entire year. Or Marquetta is now doing a month to month if you'd like to do it that way. So that would be $9.99. So this would include your live stream to the MUFON Symposium. And let me just mention, if you go to a MUFON Symposium, you would have normally your air flight or your gas if you're driving. Then you would have a rental if you flew. Then you would have your hotel and all of your meals and that type of thing. And imagine what that would cost. But for $119.88, you can get this all year. You can get that live stream plus your journals, and also have the MUFON television. So this is absolutely amazing. It's a really good deal. And I hope you can afford to do that, because it really is the best way to attend, especially with all the restrictions that we've had lately with COVID and different things. It's the best way to attend a meeting if you want to be safe and you don't want to go in and be around a bunch of people. So that'd be the best way to go. And just go to MUFON.com. And you can report your experiences there. You can join and get all that information. It's right there on our website. Now, I did mention that we were having the 51st annual symposium coming up, and that will be this July, the 23rd through the 25th of 2021. I must say right now, I don't have a lot of information yet. We're still working on this diligently to find out when the symposium and the live stream will actually happen, if we will have the symposium or if we will just do the live stream. Another reason to get that live stream update on your MUFON membership. But if it does go on, we'll have it in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I will have all the speakers. If that's going on, I will have all that information in the March issue of United MUFON. So please stay tuned for that. I don't have any information today. We are just now working on that at headquarters. And I mentioned before, if you'd like to join the team and become a field investigator, you can do that by going to MUFON.com, and click join. It's very simple, and we'd love to have you. We have a store, and it's our online store. If you haven't checked it out, we have magnificent MUFON store bargains. Our store has quality and value for every MUFON ufologist. We have t-shirts, go bags, hats, masks, books, gaiters, cups, the MUFON zippered portfolio and shoe caddy, which are both emblazoned with the MUFON logo. And so there's so much that you can get there. The shirts are great, and a really, really good deal. And in our final business, our next meeting will be on March 27th, as I said, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time. And Katie Grabowski, our Colorado State Director and Mars Administrator, will be with us. So if you can make that, please do so. She is so interesting. It's so exciting. And please register at MUFONmeetings.com. A lot of people have asked me about registering at MUFON.com, at the MUFONmeetings.com, And it's really simple. You just go in, go to the bottom of the page, register, and then the day of the meeting, you'll get a notification, and you just click on that link, and you'll be in a waiting room. And I think that's what confuses people, being in that waiting room. But while you're there, we can see that you're there, and we'll start the meeting about 10 minutes before the hour, and you'll hear the music and see this, the different things that are on the screen. But it's really very simple. But if you haven't done it, I know it can be very frustrating as well. So we're going to get into our MUFON UFO sighting stats for our meeting tonight. And January 2021, our stats are in. And our monthly statistic MUFON report for January was there were 493 UFO sightings reported to MUFON from around the world. The United States had 387, and you can see United Kingdom, 27, and the rest are there. I'll give you a minute to look at those. We also had our monthly stat report of in the United States alone, and you can see California is pretty much always number one, and Florida is usually number two, and then Texas, Arizona, and New York. And you can see wherever you are, how many cases were in your state. I'm here in Tennessee in Paris, and looks like we had 10 cases. The shape of the cases is another thing, the objects that were seen. And you can see here, the circle had 97, the sphere 63. Those are usually your 1 and 2. And I'll let you just look at that as well. Those are our stat reports for January. Next month, I'll have February's reports up. And then our stats for the distance from the witnesses as they saw what they saw. Under 100 feet, there were 51. And then 101 to 500 feet, 77. And you can see the rest of those there. Maybe one of those was your reports. Tonight, our presentation topic and our guest is going to be Missouri MUFON's Assistant State Director, Margie Kay. I am so glad to have Margie on board with us tonight. Margie has served as the Assistant State Director of Missouri MUFON, and she has done an amazing job. Since 2009, she is a STAR Team investigator and newsletter editor and education director for Missouri MUFON. She has been the director of Quest Investigation Group since 2000. Margie is a CEO and president of a chimney and fireplace restoration and professional education company, and has worked with Paget Forensic Investigations since 1987. She really is amazing. She has written over 200 articles for magazines and newsletters and written 14 books. Margie has devoted a large amount of her time to complete over 600 UFO investigations and over 800 paranormal investigations, utilizing her investigative training and unique remote viewing skills to obtain answers to strange events. Margie has worked with many other investigators to assist in their cases using remote viewing. That is just amazing to me. I can't wait to talk to her about that. Margie is one of the top remote viewers in the United States and has helped solve over 60 missing persons, homicide, and theft cases. She speaks at symposiums, conferences, and online training sessions around the United States. So tonight, join me in welcoming Margie Kay. Hi.
Hi, Mary.
So thanks for coming on tonight. This is great having you. It's so exciting. You've had such an interesting life.
Well, it's not boring. It keeps me occupied.
Good.
So I stay out of trouble.
Yeah, exactly. So you've remote viewed cases, and even some of the UFO cases that you've done, I've seen that you've remote viewed some of those, and to me that is just amazing. Would you share with us tonight a little bit about that?
Well, sure. First of all, remote viewing is utilizing the psychic center of the brain, if you will, in order to view events that have happened are happening now or happened in the past. And so there's a technique to it, but I've been doing it for many, many years. And now it doesn't take me as long to get into a slightly altered state of consciousness is what's needed. And, then I'm able to use that to view things that have happened in the past. And so I've used that with a lot of homicide cases and missing person cases and large theft cases for law enforcement and private investigators. And I was very successful with that. But then when I got involved with MUFON, I started experimenting with taking a look at some of my cases, like I would have a completed case, and maybe I had a few questions about it, and I would like to go back and take a look at what the witness actually saw. And so I found that very interesting. And then as time went on, other investigators started asking me, for a little help on a case if they got stuck with something, or if they wondered if something really happened, or if the person made it up, or what the circumstances were. Right. So I've done that, over time. It's not something that we put in the reports. Right. Okay. We kind of, I have a file, with all the information that I keep, that I don't include in the report, but I have it in my files. And a lot of times it's pretty interesting what comes out of it. And in fact, I just recently started a remote viewing group in Missouri MUFON, where so you're
doing it now. That's awesome.
Yeah, there are three of us, three people attended one of my remote viewing courses for UFO investigators, and these three were exceptional in their skills, and they picked it up very quickly and started utilizing it quickly. So I thought, I talked to Debbie about this. I said, let me play around with this a little bit. We'll do like 10 experimental cases. So our first one was last week, actually. And so none of us knew anything about it except one of the investigators. It was his case, and he only gave us the case number. That's all the information we had. We went into a light trance state. We wrote down information. And this is similar to the remote viewing techniques that the CIA has used, in that we want to get specific information about what any shapes that we see. We draw anything that we hear, or a sensation like, a feeling of heat or cold, or, anything like that. So we did that. Then we compared notes. Then we did a second session where we went into a light trance state again. But the second time you do this, you actually go into a deeper trance. And I hesitate to even say trance, because it's just a little slight alteration in consciousness. Right. Because you're still fully conscious when you do this. But the second time was even more successful. And when we compared our notes, we wrote things down, did not speak to each other, knew nothing except the case number. When we compared our notes, it was unreal. I mean, I'm even surprised how many things each one of us matched.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yes. Yeah. And so I don't want to say any more about that at the moment, because we're still in our experimental stages. But after we get through 10 of these, I'll write up something and share it with everybody.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'd have to have you back on to hear about that. Sign me up for your next course. I think that's an amazing way to investigate, by using, a skill like that. If you can hone it, I wouldn't know if I could or not. I've never really tried that, but, well, that's not true. I did try it once, but I wasn't very good at it. So would you say that somebody like me, there's any hope for me?
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, anybody can learn how to do this. Oh. I don't care if you're left brain, right brain, use both sides of your brain equally. Everybody can learn how to do it. So, interesting. I don't have a date yet for the next class, but it will be a Zoom class. Okay. So, and it'll be geared towards UFO investigators, and I'll let you know.
Very nice. So then when you see something like you're watching a video from something submitted through the CMS as a MUFON field investigator, you're actually connecting with that object, and you're able to feel something from that, and you can tell then probably quicker than others if it's accurate or if it's just a object of some sort, right?
Oh, yes. And
Oh,
usually get more information than that.
wow.
Oh, yeah. If somebody says they've been abducted, I'll know if they have or not.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Or if there's maybe, some other factor involved, as, which would explain why they're seeing something.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I'll pick that up too.
Have you ever seen any extraterrestrials?
Oh, okay. Going right for it, right, Terry? Yes, I have. Yes,
Wow.
on a number of occasions.
Uh-huh.
But so I'll just share a couple with you.
Please.
All right. There have been a few times where I needed some help with something, and it's usually a health reason. Several years ago, and I had not actually seen an extraterrestrial up until that point. So this is the very first time.
Mm-hmm.
I had a problem with my feet. My feet started hurting so bad that after a while, I couldn't even walk. I had to crawl because the bottom of my feet hurt. I went to the doctor, I went to the foot specialist. They could find nothing. They had no reason for that. So I had heard that if you meditate and ask for assistance, and if you say the words benevolent being, meaning anything, extraterrestrials, anybody that might be around that could help, that's sometimes they will. So I thought, well, I'll give this a shot because obviously, the doctors aren't figuring this out. So I meditated. I sent that message out, telepathic message, fell asleep. And the next thing I knew, I felt this very, very sharp, terrible pinch in my left calf, as if a huge needle had been put into the bone there. And it woke me up with a start. And when I opened my eyes, I saw two short, gray type ETs, obviously no hair. They had smaller heads than the normal grays and smaller eyes, but they did have a nose and a mouth. And one of them had his hands out, like right over my feet. And I could sense that there was a third one to my right, but I didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, my first reaction is to scream and throw the covers over my head. Okay, so, I'm a UFO investigator. I believe that there are extraterrestrials. I've always wanted to see extraterrestrials. And then when they show up to help me, what do? I scream and throw the covers over my head. So, that was just my gut reaction. It's different when they're actually there in front of you and it's not a human being. And that they're an intelligent being.
Right.
It's different when it really happens and they're right there than when you're just talking about it. Or I'd like to have one come in and sit down and have a chat with me, like we all say, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, what happened is they immediately disappeared. I did not see them anymore.
Mm.
I realized later why that was. It was because I changed my level of consciousness. I lowered my vibration to the point where I could not see them, because they, I believe, are interdimensional beings. So they're vibrating at a higher rate than we are, than normally we are. But we have the ability to raise our vibration and see them. So at that point, I could see them. And then when I got scared, boom, that just lowered my vibration and I couldn't see them.
Mm-hmm.
But I still felt their presence. I thought they were still in the room. So anyway, long story short, within 24 hours, my feet didn't hurt anymore.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was done. And that has happened, that a similar thing to that has happened at least 3 or 4 times since. And so then I wanted to move into the second time that I want to tell you about. I was working on a case in Sugar Creek, Missouri, which is just north of Independence, very close to the Missouri River.
Uh-huh.
And this is an ongoing case. It has been for years. Jean Walker is the lead investigator on the case, and I went with her to help with it. The witness is very credible. She has hundreds and hundreds of pictures. There have been UFOs visiting. We've seen them. We had 5 investigators one time. We all saw UFOs. We could not explain what we saw. Well, towards the end of one evening, some very strange things had happened throughout the entire evening. Towards the end, we were sitting in a couple of chairs, or I was sitting down and the witness was sitting down, I think, or Jean was sitting, and everybody else was standing kind of behind our chairs and over to the right a little bit. And we were looking at this one light in the sky and trying to figure out what it was. So we're all looking at the light. We're all taking pictures of the light. And all of a sudden I see this, what I thought was an investigator standing next to me. I thought he bent over and I saw his bald head right next to me. So it was out of my peripheral vision. I turned to look. No, it was an ET. It was a little guy, maybe 3.5 feet tall. And he was looking at the same thing we were. It was actually hysterical because here's the ET with us looking at the UFO in the sky. And instantly he disappeared because it shocked me. So I had, this same deal, lowered my vibration, couldn't see him anymore. And we were all tired. This is like 10:30 at night. We'd already been there for hours. And this is something else I should mention. When you are tired, you will see things because that shifts you down and you're relaxed, and it will automatically kind of shift you down into an altered state, even though you're still awake. Okay. Right. So we go back to looking. A few minutes later, same thing. This time I think the investigator has bent over again. I look over, it's the ET. He's looking up again. And I said, I cannot believe this. I cannot believe that this is he's still standing there. He's still looking up. It's almost like he was kind of mocking us.
Oh, wow.
10 minutes later, it happens again. Only this time, I turn to look at him. He turns his head and looks right at me and gives me this little smile, like a little smirk.
Oh, wow.
And I instantly thought of the movie Paul, with that funny ET, he's got all kinds of sarcastic things to say and stuff. And that's the kind of feeling I got from this, that he was like, well, this is hysterical. You can see me and no one else can see me. And I'm standing here looking at the UFO I just came out of. It was funnier than hell. So the witness comes with her phone and she goes, did he look anything like this? And she pulled her phone up. She pulled the photos. The exact same ET standing next to a tree that she had photographed a week before.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
That was a lot of fun, that case. I've never seen that guy again either, but I call him Paul.
Actually, I was in my house in Newport Richey, Florida, and I was adjusting something on my camera. And I was looking in the camera and I could clearly see a gray standing there. And I was mesmerized. I stopped and it was almost like a shock moment. And I stared at it. And then I looked up and he wasn't there. And I thought he was in the camera, but he wasn't there. And yet, you could clearly see him. Some very bizarre and strange things do happen. I don't ever really understand why. Don't understand why they interact with us the way they do, but it is really mind-boggling, isn't it? It's a great experience too,
Oh, it certainly is. And being a MUFON investigator is not boring.
No.
There's always something new happening.
I tell people you'll never be the same because really you're not, so many different things. And especially while you're working on a case and you're talking to people who have gone through some amazing, frightening, and sometimes very bizarre experiences, it changes
Yeah.
you. You know, you see what's happening out there for real and what it does to people and how it messes with them, you know, and people wonder, am I okay? You know, and of course they're okay. But because they're having these odd experiences, it's hard to wrap your mind around those things. And then it's hard to face another day and go, how in the world did that happen? But, you know, you do, life goes on, and you do learn to deal with these things, but they do change you. You're forever changed when
Oh,
you've been in the presence of an extraterrestrial.
definitely. Yeah. It changes your entire outlook on life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what are some of the bigger cases that you've done that you could share with us?
Well, there are quite a few.
I know
And
you've done.
honestly, when I signed up for this gig, I had no clue uh, how much was going on and
Right.
how many people were having close encounters.
Yes. Hmm.
So, I feel kind of lucky because Missouri is a very busy state. Kansas City is a super hot spot
It
in our
is.
state, and I'm right smack dab in the middle of it. Um, there are a couple of cases that are the biggest. So, the first one
Uh-huh.
is the Blue Springs Lights case, which later became the Kansas City Lights. Well,
Mhm.
in 2012, there were a lot of phone calls that went into the newspaper stations and MUFON, and there was a report filed. And but I wasn't aware of it yet. I got a call from a reporter, and he said, "Are you going out to this case?" And I said, "What case is that?" So I look up real quick, and I had just been assigned the case in Blue Springs. I said, "Well, yeah, but I can't go tonight." And he says, "Well, I'm going tonight, and then I'm going again tomorrow night." And I said, "Okay, I'll meet you there tomorrow night." So this reporter and his camera woman went out. They, there's a whole neighborhood, about 15, 20 people standing outside telling him that these lights are going to appear. And they've been out there for 2 weeks.
Oh,
And
wow.
there would be two lights appear in the sky, and they were absolutely not planets. And they
Mhm.
were acting strange, and they were changing color and things like that.
Right.
So he's like, oh, okay, this is just going to be planets. Like, it's going to be a real simple story. Not going to be anything to it. Well, after they'd been there for about 2 hours, things got very interesting because the big light started flashing three colors and spinning. And then about 30 minutes later, it shot across the sky, across to the horizon and back, and then stayed in the exact spot that it was before.
Mm.
People ran screaming into their houses. The camera woman took her camera, got into the van, locked it, and would not come back out. And she refused to go back ever again.
Oh,
So
wow.
this is a serious, straight-laced reporter that I see on the news every night, and he is completely freaked out. So the second night I get there, and I'm thinking, this can't be true. That this is just a couple of planets. I'm going to take my photos, and I'll be done with this.
Uh-huh.
And everybody he's like shaking when he's talking to me. So I knew something had happened, and
Mhm.
so are the witnesses.
Mhm.
Pretty soon a light comes up, and I look over and I said, "Oh, that's Venus." I get my sky map. No, Venus is below the horizon. So then another light appears. Now this is right at dusk before anything else is seen in the sky. And of course, the first lights that we see in the sky, first planets, are Venus and Jupiter, the planets. Well, this
Mhm.
was in the place where Arcturus should be. And as it got darker and darker, this thing got brighter and brighter. And then you could see three colors spinning on both of these objects.
Mhm.
They were both spinning clockwise, and I was really paying close attention. We tried to get them through a telescope and could not see them. And we've tried this several times on numerous occasions to see them through a telescope, and they will not show up through a telescope, but they will with using high-powered binoculars.
Mhm.
Then I see something so bizarre that I yelled out on one of the objects, I saw a grid pattern. It looked like metal, like a metal grid, and you could see that it was dark on the front side and bright on the inside, so that there was this light and then this grid around the light. And then I saw what I can only describe as like a head and shoulders transformer, a metallic looking thing, come over the left side of the object and go back. And when I saw that, I said, oh my God, or something like that. And everyone turned around. Now they've got cameras rolling, right?
Right.
I did not want to freak out the entire city of Kansas City. So they said, what? And I said, oh, I haven't ever seen a light that bright. And they're like, and they all turned back away. But what I saw was crazy.
Wow.
So since then, we have had a number of witnesses get film of these objects, communicate with them. When you flash a light, and I've done this myself, using a 1,000,000 candle power flashlight, flash it 3 times, it answers.
Oh, wow.
Flash it 3 times, it answers.
Oh.
It's crazy. Well, we found out all over Kansas City, and then I started traveling. I've seen them in Tennessee, in Wyoming, South Dakota, Florida. I've seen them all over, and other people have as well. And what they are, they're stationary, bright lights. You want to see them when it's really, really dark, so you can discern that they're not a planet.
Yeah.
And they spin. So they spin counterclockwise, and it's like red, green, white, or blue, orange, white. It's usually 3 colors. They'll stay in that place. Sometimes they'll do something crazy like drop and then go back up, or shoot across the sky and go back. They may stay in the same place for hours and then fade out, or just fade out and they're gone. And you could have as many as 5 in a row. They'll usually be in a row at the same time. So I would encourage everybody to look for those and try to get video if you can.
Yeah.
Because they're just,
and stabilize.
we don't know what they are. But they're near Earth objects. They're definitely near Earth. They're not something that's far away. Very close.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then, so the biggest one. All right. 2011 in October, we had 87 sighting reports in Kansas City.
Oh my goodness.
There were people all over the city. Now, there were 2 things going on. One was a flying team, actually 2 flying teams that fly at night, and they have strobe lights all over them, and they fly in close formation. Some people mistook those for UFOs. So what happened was the news picked up on that, and they said, oh, it's explained. All of these reports are explained. That's what this was. But that's not the end of the story. There were several people who had very close encounters with a huge UFO, starting in one place in the city, in Raytown, and coming across through South Independence, Kansas City, and then going across to 435 and north on 435. We've got 5 separate witnesses that had very close encounters, and I'm talking 60 to 100 feet away. And then in one case, 20 feet away.
Oh my goodness.
Witnesses.
That's nice.
So 2 of the witnesses were in an apartment complex at 63rd and 435 highway. Behind them was a big mine. They were mining gravel or something, and there's lots of woods and trees. And then the apartment complex, and then you have roads and houses. But behind them was all of this open area. They were out on October the 4th. A man went to go visit a friend of his, so that the first gentleman, his name is Clarence, was in the driveway of the apartment complex, and his friend LaRon was on the 3rd floor balcony. Some kids in the parking lot pointed out, and they were screaming and pointing at this object that was coming, and it was, getting closer. It seemed to be just flying past them and not paying attention. It was kind of in the distance. But these 2 gentlemen they got their cameras out and started filming. and one of them was taking flash photos. And at that point, it seemed to get the attention of this object, and it turned and came towards them. And at that point, all of the children that were playing outside ran inside their apartments to hide. And there's just these two men and one man's wife on the balcony watching this object come in very, very close. So one got photos from above the object, and the other one is standing on the ground and got photos from the ground.
Oh, that's awesome.
He felt compelled to go to this thing. He could not stop himself. He had to go close to it. So he walked very close to it. He stood up on a metal box and was taking pictures. Both men thought they were taking pictures the whole time and didn't stop. Upon later analysis, there's a 20-minute gap in both of their cameras.
Missing time.
Yeah, and the one from above sees a green mist come out and go on Clarence and put Clarence in a trance state.
Oh, wow.
He was in it. He didn't hear anything. He didn't respond to people that were yelling at him to get out of there and get away from there.
Mm-hmm.
But amazingly, and they heard this loud, the object is there, and then they hear this loud wah, 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 like really horrible mechanical sound that was deafening as it turned up on end. So it's a disc to start with, and then it turned up on end. And the pictures that the Laurent got from the balcony are of these lights, the underside of the object, the whole underside of it.
Oh, that's awesome.
This was in the MUFON Journal. I wrote an article about it. I cannot remember the exact month, but it was 2011. And some of the pictures are there. I also wrote a book called The Kansas City UFO Flaps, and that story's in there, as well as the Kansas City lights, and a lot of others that are very interesting.
Oh, that's awesome. Really?
Yeah. So
I know people don't realize.
Here I was going out to see something that I thought was just a normal lights in the sky deal, and no, it isn't.
No, it wasn't.
Fascinating.
Yeah, these are the things that will definitely change you. But people don't realize that when you become a field investigator, that this is the norm. You know, you hear things and you're exposed to things, and it's just absolutely amazing. It's amazing, life-changing, and sometimes really hard to wrap your head around, really hard. But it's interesting.
You have to not think about it too much or you'll go crazy.
Yeah. This is why we have such a family, I think, within MUFON, because we reach out to one another. We have to kind of center ourselves, and it's like a family. You call someone and you talk to them about, what do you think about this? What happened here? Why do you think this happened? That's really the biggest question, is why, Why do these things happen the way they do? And why do they seek out people, individuals? I've been on investigations where there are 5 of us doing the investigation. 3 of us will clearly see something, and the other 2 will see nothing. And to me, I've always wondered about that. How could that be? Almost as if to say that these extraterrestrials are only going to reveal themselves to those who are either open. I mean, I can't really say, I don't know why, but they choose who they're going to reveal themselves to. And I've heard so many stories just like that, where I have been in a CE5, in my backyard. We had a huge backyard, a couple acres in Lakeland. And, I'm facing this way, and all the people are facing this way, looking south. And all of a sudden I hear, turn around. And I turned around and I saw the most amazing craft, and, how it came in. And it's just amazing to me, that they chose to give me that bit of information, because we were all looking south. No one was looking north. and it was right there in the north. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? Who would have thought of that? And anyway, you know, the CE5 is so much fun. I don't know. Have you been involved in doing CE5s on your property, or do you get together with your Missouri group?
Yeah, I do. I have been doing a technique for years before I heard about CE5, but I'm sure it's similar.
Uh-huh.
It's a matter of getting yourself in a very calm state and sending a telepathic message out, which we think is quantum consciousness.
Yeah.
You know, and string theory is involved, and all of this. There's another phenomenon that really has opened my eyes. It's the fast movers. It's the super high speed UFOs that you normally don't see with the naked eye.
Right.
And I wrote a book that just recently came out with along with another MUFON investigator. He's our chief investigator for the state of Missouri, Larry Tyree. He uses the name Wayne Lawrence as a pen name, and Bill Spicer from Wichita. The three of us, we've known each other for years, but we each came to the conclusion that we were seeing and capturing the fast movers using different techniques. But in the end, we've come to the same conclusions. And we feel that there's quantum telepathy involved in this. You can see the fast movers or capture them rather on film, video. And then you take the video apart frame by frame and look, and you'll see these objects. However, and usually at a distance. But if you use telepathy, if you meditate for a few minutes before you go outside and then send a telepathic message out, they may come in closer and to give you a better view and let you get really good photographs. And as time has gone on for the three of us, that has worked better and better every time we do it. And even since the book has come out, we've got new stuff. Especially Bill, he seems to be the one that's the most dedicated to capturing these things on film. But you know, it's very, yeah, I know Dr. Greer, and I see the message in the chat. This is probably a very similar method. And it's very useful. It works. It just lets you know there is a lot more going on in our world than we normally are aware of. And it doesn't just work with ETs or UFOs. It works with other things too.
Right.
And I will just leave it at that.
Some people in the chat room had wanted to know, what is a CE5? It's a close encounter of a fifth kind, which is human initiated. And it's something that you strive to do. I have been involved in several. They're very rewarding. Usually we get together and we have a time of either prayer or meditation, a quiet time where you just focus on what it is that you'd like to see, or, you know, that you'd like to interact with an extraterrestrial or a UFO that is out or about in your area. And you very you're very focused on it. And so everybody is, and you're in agreement that we're not going to freak out if something, you know, comes up, that you're going to experience this with an open mind. And we ask for protection, you know, and then we all get together, and sometimes, you know, some of us sing songs or hum or just do something, but quietly to ourselves a little bit. And then we go out and we wait, and we'll stand either looking to the north or the south or the east or the west. And pretty soon, usually within an hour, something will catch your eye moving very quickly in the sky. So it's a human initiated contact. And that's why we say CE5. But it's been very rewarding for me. I've gone out a couple times and haven't had anything happen, and usually I limit mine to about 3.5 hours, because after then, it's very dark, you're getting tired, and sometimes it's too hot or too cold, mosquitoes, all of that goes with that territory. So we usually do about 3.5 hours and then come in and then write down a journal, kind of, to keep notes on everybody individually on what they've seen, what they experienced. And of course, we're talking to one another in the moment when things are happening. Like I shared earlier, we were all looking south and I heard turn around. And in the north, we saw something that was moving, and it literally moved in a loop and then went straight down, kind of made an N like this, and then jumped back over and went right into Orion's belt. It was very much controlled. It wasn't anything on a trajectory. A trajectory is where it just goes like this, It was moving deliberately, and it was amazing. It was amazing, and 3 out of 5 of us saw it. I don't know why the other 2 couldn't see it. And that's what I was saying. I don't know why people don't all see the same thing, but they don't. So it's an interesting phenomenon for sure.
I think that is because of the person's level of awareness and vibration level, their consciousness. If they're not in the right state of mind, they will not see it. It's like a block.
It's like a block. Yeah, I agree.
It blocks them there, and usually what that is fear.
Yes,
fear of the unknown. And if they're, if they have any trepidation about it, they won't have the experience. I've had the same thing. I've been with my husband and I were with 2 friends one evening. We saw clear as day a UFO. Actually, it looked like it exploded in the sky.
Oh.
And 2 of them could not see it, and 2 of us could. And there was no way they could have missed it. It was a huge explosion. And yeah, I see that and hear it. I had a case in Kansas City a few years ago. A woman is walking with her friends on her lunch break in downtown Kansas City. Very busy, lots of big buildings, lots of people, cars. She looks up and there's a huge UFO hovering over a building next to them. And she's looking at her friends, and and they don't see it. And so she said, you guys see anything over that building over there? And they look. No, what are you talking about? None of them saw it except her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is common, but it's really nothing to worry about. You still have to take the word of the person who did see it, because that doesn't mean it wasn't there just because the other people didn't see it.
Well, very true. In 2012, I was coming home from Tampa, and I was on a date with my son, Joshua. And as we were coming over the Howard Franklin Bridge, I saw these strange lights, and I felt them. And I looked up and I said to him, my son, humor me, just keep your eye on those lights up there. And he goes, oh yeah, sure, Mom, I bet it's a UFO, right? And I said, honey, please, just keep your eyes on those lights. And I was driving about 65 miles an hour, but he didn't initially believe me. When he finally put his mind in a place where he was hearing what his mother was saying to him, we both had the most amazing experience on that bridge and coming over into St. Petersburg from Tampa. And it's something that we both look back at and just think, wow, it's just amazing. So it is true. You do have to be in a certain state of mind to receive it, Yeah. I can't wait to learn about the remote viewing, because now I'm excited to see if, I have that ability to be able to actually remote view something, or to feel it coming in or something like that. And someone had asked a question about remote viewing earlier, and I would like to add to our poll. We have a poll up. Have you ever tried remote viewing? Or have you ever attempted or studied remote viewing?
I just answered.
Yeah. The poll is in. It looks like a lot of people are saying it. Well, looks like half and half, maybe. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's something that more and more people are becoming aware of. And there are a lot of different techniques. I have my own technique that I developed on my own. I actually found out about it accidentally while I was remote viewing a missing person. And this was my very first case. A woman I knew came to me, and her niece had been kidnapped.
Oh,
and
dear.
so I was sitting here thinking, I have her on the phone. I'm thinking, how am I going to find this person? When all of a sudden, now this might sound strange, but it was strange to me too at the time. I experienced seeing a line come out of my solar plexus, and I followed it. So I just followed this line to a spot, and all of a sudden, I have dual consciousness. I'm fully conscious that I'm sitting in a chair talking on a phone, but also another part of me is out and standing on a street corner. And I look up and I see these two street signs, and I tell her the name of those streets. I said, does that make any sense to you? She goes, yeah, that's her bus stop.
Oh, wow.
And then I see the line go 2 houses down, and then I see this like gold glow around this house. And all of a sudden I'm transported up and above the house and over a shed in the back. And then I'm looking down inside, like through the roof. And I see this girl tied up, and she has duct tape on her mouth, and she's asleep. And I said, that's it. And I got the house address. And then I looked inside the house, and I saw 3 people sitting there, a woman and 2 men. And I said, the woman is the one who did it. The woman is the one who made friends with this girl and tricked her into coming into her house.
Oh, my goodness.
She said they know they'd already been there with the police to that address, because they knew that this 30-year-old woman had made friends with this 14-year-old girl at her bus stop and thought it was odd. And she's the only one that they knew of around there. And it was kind of a strange thing. Well, they'd already been, all they did was ask them. They did not go into the shed in the back.
Yeah,
so
right.
She got off the phone. She says, I'm going there right now. She called the detective that had been working on the case. He did not want her to go. She said, I don't care what you say, I'm going. So he went with her.
Good.
They went in the back, and they found her.
Was she alive?
She was alive. She was fine. If they had waited till morning, the girl was being shipped out the next morning. They had sold her to a sex trafficking ring.
Oh, dear God. Thank God for you. Thank God for that gift. Oh, my gosh.
Well, that was my first introduction to remote viewing, and that's how I learned how to do it. And, then I was able to practice it later on and repeat that. But, and then not only in real time, but then also in looking at the past.
Right. That's amazing. What a gift. That is pure talent. And, I guess like you were saying, if we can, in fact, all do it, it must be like a muscle in atrophy. And we must possibly have to just use it and keep using it and be dedicated to using it to get it back in shape,
That's exactly what it is. It's a matter of using your 6 and extra senses.
Yes.
Lots of extra senses. If we don't use them, they get atrophied. That's just it. And if it's something that you practice every day, you get really good at it. It's just like playing an instrument.
It's whatever your focus is,
Yeah, exactly. But we all have the same equipment. We all have a pineal gland.
Right.
A pituitary gland.
Right.
We all have the same psychic center of the brain. And if those things are activated, it works.
Yes. Could we do a poll to see how many people out there have had success in doing this? Oh, we didn't get that set up in enough time. Oh, darn. It's so interesting to me. But I think the extraterrestrials are aware of those people who have whatever it is, if it's the pituitary gland, if it's a sixth sense, if it's a spiritual knowing, if it's whatever the connection is, because they're an advanced civilization, I do believe extraterrestrials can just tap right into that with us. And that's why some of us have more experiences perhaps than others. And I know I've been experiencing them ever since I was very young. Now, you had said earlier that that happened while you were with MUFON, your first experiences with extraterrestrials. Had you not had any as a child?
Well, I did, but I didn't know it until I was regressed under hypnosis to
Ah,
find that I had an experience through my entire life since I was a baby in the crib.
oh,
The first time I was abducted was, I was less than 1 year old, about 1 year old.
oh, that's
And
amazing.
yeah, I reviewed the whole thing. But yeah, and I've been abducted several times. Most of the time, though, it is a communication. It's them coming to me, or
Uh-huh.
it's a telepathic communication. There's no physical thing involved. On a couple of occasions, I willingly went onto a craft to learn something.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I think it was 2013. I was taken aboard a craft willingly and shown a screen, and I
Uh-huh.
was shown a giant comet hitting the Earth in Russia, and like this terrible destruction that really was an extinction level event. And I just could not figure out why they showed that to me.
Yeah.
But then a few months later, that uh,
Yeah. They,
asteroid came
yeah.
in
Yeah.
over Russia.
Uh-huh.
And if you'll remember,
I do remember that. Mm-hmm.
well, it caused a lot of destruction. It
Yes.
wasn't an extinction level event, but it
Right.
caused a
Right.
lot. But on, the Russians all have cameras on their cars. And on some of those videos, you can see the streak of light come in
Yes.
and meet with that comet.
Uh-huh.
Somebody or something blew that thing up before it hit
Yes.
and shattered it.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
believe I think the ETs did that. And I think they showed that to me, just showing me that this is what could have happened, but they're here to protect us. So at least some of them are here to protect the planet.
Yeah. There's definitely benevolent
Oh, yeah.
extraterrestrials. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
they
even,
help heal people, a lot. But you do hear all types of stories. And
Mhm.
it seems that some people think it's a negative thing and some people think it's a positive thing. For me, I'm leaning towards positive because
Right.
they have, helped me out on numerous occasions.
Uh-huh. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've got just a little bit of time before we go into questions. And so we're going to take some questions from our listeners tonight. And I would just ask that you address Margie when you're asking her a specific question, so that we know that you're asking her that specific question. And if others would keep their mics muted so that while the person is asking the question and talking, we can hear what is being said. Okay. And I don't know. I have to ask my producer. What are we going into that right this moment? Sure. Okay. All right. So, those of you that would like to ask Margie K questions about her experiences, please do so now. And I guess he's opening the mics. Okay. It's a
I
little.
see one question in the chat if you want me to take that one first.
Okay. Go ahead. He's opening
He's,
mics here.
well, one of them is, did the local law enforcement agency document the find for you? In that first case that I did to find the missing girl, the woman involved was her aunt, and she did not tell the detective how she got this information.
Uh-huh.
So in that case, no. However, in all of my other cases, except when I worked for an agency in Kansas for a while, they have my things, I'm sure, documented. or they may not. I don't know. But in all of the other cases, I make a deal with the detective or the private investigator to never use my name. Do not put my name in any report. I do not care about getting credit for something. What they need to do is just take my information to help them solve the case. It only
Right.
takes me a few minutes each time I do a case. So
Mhm.
within 20 minutes, I will have enough information for them to follow leads. And then occasionally it takes another meeting, usually by phone, and then they will chase down, they will go the direction. I can get addresses, vehicle tag numbers, types of vehicles, apartments, their names of their friends,
And
things
this
like
comes
that.
quickly to you, or it comes pretty quick?
It comes very quick. Yeah, it used to take a while, but now it comes very quickly. So
Oh,
no, there should be no records. And the reason why is because there are a lot of bad guys out there
yeah.
who could get a hold of a record like that, and then it would put me in jeopardy. And I know there have been a couple of big cases I've worked with some mafia types involved,
Mm-hmm.
and they've got connections, and I'd like to be around for a while. So no, I don't even want, no, I don't want any credit. I don't want to be on TV with it. Nothing. I just want to help them out with the case.
Yeah, it's a gift, not an invitation to, throw yourself at the mercy of somebody.
Exactly. No, we're not doing any Long Island medium stuff like that or nothing like that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care. Okay.
Okay. Let's see. I'm just looking at,
All they have to do is unmute themselves and ask a question if they want.
okay, they have to unmute themselves to ask the question?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I
Well,
have
we-
one. Is it okay?
Uh-huh. I hear you.
Um, Let me see if I put my video on, although I get shy. About a month ago, I was meditating. I meditate a lot. And I thought, well, I'm going to just be open to the divine and the UFOs. And I don't do that at all very often, but I want them. And I was in a great place and felt good. And, I just felt like, okay, I'm ready, whatever happens, because I want to connect. I've been wanting to, and I haven't done a CE5 yet with my friends. And I had 5 different pictures. Okay, it slid in, it was a UFO, and it went away. And then I did this 5 different UFOs, not the same being, just went in my mind and out. And then another one came in from another kind of look and went out. And then when it was over, I went, oh my God. So then it was gone. And I'm wondering if I hadn't been afraid, I try so hard not to be, wonder what would have happened. Mary Kay, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole key is when you get into the fear, that drops your vibration level. So you won't have the experience. But I'll tell you just from personal experience, after 2 or 3 times, then you won't be afraid anymore.
Yes.
Okay, good.
You'll be able to sit through the experience.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I need that. Good.
You'll be
I
fine.
want that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Who else?
Hi.
Bye, and thank you. There's a lot of different things in chat we'll have to send you, Margie, people that want to connect with you.
Okay. Yeah.
And while we're waiting for someone to unmute, what is your webpage or your email so
Yeah.
that people can get in touch with you?
MargieK.com. That's probably the easiest thing to remember. Everything will be linked up there. I've got a podcast starting up here very soon. Will be linked on there. My books. Also, unxmedia.com, just unxmedia.com is where my books are, and other books that I published for other people are on that site. And the information about the Fast Mover book is on there as well. But margiek.com, and it'll link to everything. My email address is margiek 06@yahoo.com.
Is that Margie, K-A-Y, or just
Yes.
Margie with a K?
K-A-Y.
Okay, good.
It used to be just a K, but that was confusing. So yeah, it's K-A-Y.
Margie, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, James.
Could you tell the people the different Zoom meetings we have weekly here in our state of Missouri?
Yeah, Missouri is having, well, we have a monthly regular meeting with a guest speaker that's open to all. If anybody's invited, and that is on the second Thursday of the month. You can go to MissouriMUFON.org, O-R-G, if you want more information about that. And then James has a meeting once a month he's the South West Missouri section director, and he has a meeting on Zoom. Then we have field investigator meetings, and MUFON field investigators and state directors, assistant directors are, welcome to attend those meetings. If you want more information about that, you can go to MissouriMUFON.org and see that.
Those are great meetings. I've been to some. Anybody can join.
Yes. And we just talk about good cases and whatever happens to be the topic of the day. Sometimes we do some training too.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, thanks, James. Anybody else?
Margie, could you repeat your email?
Email margiek06@yahoo.com or momufonasd@gmail.com.
And Mo MUFON is MOMUFON.
Yep. It's not Montana, it's Missouri.
Mo MUFON, what was the rest of it?
momufonasd@gmail.com.
ASD as in Delta?
Yes. As in Assistant State Director.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And, if anybody's interested in doing a remote viewing class or getting the remote viewing workbook, just shoot me an email and I'll put you on the list. And then when I get things coordinated, I will let you know.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Good evening, Billy here at MUFON. I have a question.
Sure.
Hi, well, first of all, thank you for sharing your stories this evening. Appreciate it, very interesting. The question is, what do you see, if any, connection between remote viewing and the ability to go to other dimensions, like, for instance, life after death?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Oh, that's a good question. I definitely think that there is a connection. And amazingly, people who have had near-death experiences and have experienced death and then come back seem to have a sudden ability to do remote viewing, to do psychic work. They're able to get into a more altered state of consciousness. And, I kind of think I know where you're going with this. It also, I alluded to this earlier, it helps you to connect with anything that's interdimensional, not just ETs. So also people who have crossed over. My understanding, I started out doing readings for people and talking to loved ones who have crossed over. So this is, you're using the same equipment in your brain to do this. And it is telepathic communication with people who have crossed over, but you're also entering their dimension when you do so. And you have, you're seeing things as well. And in some cases, feeling things as well. But you're entering their dimension in order to speak to them. That's what I think right now. That could change in the future, but I really think that's what it is.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good
Thank
question.
you.
Margie,
Yes.
This is Sharon Hamilton, and I actually sent this question in an email before the meeting started, but I don't know if you're going to read it or not, so I'll ask again. I have many up of my home. I'm in North Carolina here in June, and the initial starship got my attention deliberately. It kept showing up, and I kept thinking it was a very bright star, but an oddly bright star. So after a while, I started really paying attention to it. And one night I noticed it moved, like around. So I thought, that's not a star. So I started, at first I would speak out loud to it, but now I just think. So it's telepathy. It responds to me all the time. And I would say within this last month, I realized there are many, many, many of them. And they've even, I don't know how to explain this, they've sort of opened up the sky. I can see out into what I would call the heavens. I don't know how else to explain it. So there's just tons of them. And they fly over too. They're always going east. And I can see them clearly. At first, they look like a star. The weirdest thing happened. I have these glasses I use for just the computer. So I'm really only supposed to be able to focus about 18 inches away. And they've also got that anti-glare coating on them. So maybe that helps.
Yes.
I actually had those glasses on somewhat accidentally while I was going to take a picture with my camera. And when I took my camera down, I realized they didn't look like a star anymore. I could now see the shapes clearly. And they're circular. And it looks like I'm looking at the bottom of them. And the lights are still bright, so I can't count exactly how many lights there are because each one kind of glares over a little to the other light. But there's maybe 8 white lights, and in between each white light, there's a green light. It's not as bright. It kind of looks like a check mark, but I'm pretty sure it's light. When it looks like a star, a white star, I can see a red light on top and a red light on the bottom. Not all of the ships, though, are white and green circles. Some of them are orange, like the color of an orange, lights, but also in a circle. And they all will answer me if I look at them, or most of them. I should not say all of them because there's too many of them. A lot of them will answer me if I look at them and think. But I stick with my main one. I feel like that's my ship. That sounds kind of funny, but that's the way it feels.
Well, Sharon, you said something very important there, and that is with your glasses that has the anti-glare on it. So
it's
two
the
things.
The one question I want to ask you, though, is I asked them questions, but I'm not sure, and I'm going to use this word loosely, I'm not sure how to hear the answer. I think I figured out when they answer me yes, it goes up and down like this, and then it kind of bobs to my left, almost like they're skywriting, but it's nothing I could read. So I'll let you answer, because my question is, how can I learn to really communicate with them?
Okay. Well, let me say this. You have a really good start because you're able to have some communication with them, and they are showing themselves to you, and you're able to see them. So that's huge. The anti-glare on the glasses is also a big key. We have found that polarized lenses, and Bill Spicer figured this one out. Polarized lenses will allow you to see more of the light spectrum. So if you're looking for UFOs outside during the daytime, put on some sunglasses and you will be amazed what you'll see. Now, you also mentioned you saw many, many of them. This is also what we have come to the conclusion. There are thousands or millions of them around all the time. And as you raise your consciousness, you're able to see more. But this is a process. You're not going to see everything and have everything happen at once and have like a whole, 10 people from a UFO fleet come and sit down at your couches in your living room and have a conversation. They don't work like that. They do things very slowly so that you can process it. If that happened all at once, who knows, might go a little bit crazy. But you'll get used to doing things very slowly here. The communication part, the telepathic messages, those will come if you just work on activating your psychic center a little more, meditate for like 10 minutes before you go outside, and do that on a consistent basis. And you send the message out there that you want to have an answer, they will get it. They will get it. And it's all you. It's all inside you, whether you're going to hear that or not. So it's just practice. It'll happen. Who else?
Don't be shy.
Anybody?
Hi, this is Chris France. I have a couple of questions. And I'm not going to turn on my camera because I look like heck, but
That's okay.
CE5, both Terry and you, Margie, have mentioned this a little bit. Does it have to be done in groups, or really, can you do it independently?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That was a good, quick answer.
Absolutely. The answer is yes, you can do it on your own. But here's the thing.
You do
When
it
you
on
get
your
with a
own.
group of people, it's a bigger message that is going out. So you're likely to get more attention.
Okay, fair enough. Second, in your experience in communication with non-human entities, the ones that you've interacted in, have they shared with you where they're from, what are their intentions, and why are they interacting with us?
Good question.
Yes.
Do you care to
So-
share, I guess, is the other part of it.
Yeah. I'll share some of it. Many years ago, I was contacted by a green 7-foot-tall mantis being.
Oh, my.
It was the last thing on earth I was ever expecting. And he showed me some of my past lives, and mainly on the plains as a Native American Indian, and under training under a Native American shaman chief by the name of White Cloud. At the time, I had no clue about who this person was, but I found out later that he was a living human being who passed on. And anyway, he also showed me that at that time, and this was approximately around the 1100s, and I don't know how I know that, but that's when, and there were no white people here at that time. He showed me a time where he brought his ship down and he stood next to me when I was on a vision quest, because I was going to be the next shaman. I was in training as a female in this group. They took me at that time in a craft to their planet, which was called a crystal planet. Well, anyway, it was a crystal planet. It was a solid crystal on the outside of it. There's a strange set of coincidences that came with that, but anyway. They took me inside the planet and into a room, and this being came into the room with me, but there were 12 other beings just like him, but they were standing on the other side of a glass or crystal wall. And I was given the impression that it was because of the atmosphere in the room, it had been made okay for me, and that this being that was with me had acclimated himself to Earth's atmosphere, so it was okay for him, but not them. That's why they had to stay on the other side of the glass. And each one of them had an object in their hand that looked like a pen, and they shone a light, a beam of light, like a laser light, at me. But as I was sitting there, I was also remote viewing this, and I could see not only my physical body sitting there, but all of my light bodies as well, 7 light bodies. And they were placing some type of a seed or an implant into those light bodies, which was then set like with a timer to activate at a certain time in the future. So this showed me several things. We reincarnate, which I had already believed anyway, but this solidified it. And we take all of our light bodies with us, and the only one we leave behind is the physical body. So this astral body and the etheric body that I go into other dimensions with, people who do remote viewing with, is a body that stays with us. It goes into other dimensions. And so he was showing me how things first got started for me and why I get certain abilities every year around my birthday. Some new thing will happen. Now, I don't know if this happens to everybody, but he showed me this. And it was the last thing I was expecting on Earth was a mantis being. And I have heard of other people who've had contact with mantis, and even they've been seen physically. I've seen some documentaries where they think this thing is a monster. And I don't know if there are just different types of them or what the deal is, but this being has been with me through many lifetimes and my entire life this time. And if I need to call on someone, I can call on him, and there are some others too. And one of them is White Cloud, and he's in spirit form. And they seem to know each other. It's just all, I don't know. It sounds crazy to me. As I'm saying it sounds crazy, but that's what happened.
That's fascinating. Thank you. And can you share a little bit about your books and or your, let's say, the favorite book that you've written?
Well, that has to be The Fast Movers.
Yeah.
And, high-speed evidence for high-speed UFOs, UAPs, because it's the most recent and because I think we have the most evidence in it. And I just think people are going to find it fascinating. And if you do read it, please leave a review on Amazon. We appreciate that. The other one I mentioned earlier, the Kansas City UFO flaps, that talks about UFO events that have happened in this area since the 1800s. So I went through, a lot of the big cases in that book, and I really need to do a second edition and add to it, but it's good the way it is now. Then I have another one called A Sonoma County Phenomena. This is about Natalie Roberts in Sonoma County, California. I worked on this case for years. She captured probably 250,000 photos of things coming in and out of a portal on her property. I remote viewed it. I spoke to her a million times about this, emailed back and forth. She sent me her photos. I had the photos analyzed by an expert. They have not been tampered with. It is just fascinating. It's a picture book, basically. I mean, you're going to see the whole story, but there are 100 pictures in the book of things, of ETs and spirits and UFOs, and even what I think are galaxies, shrunk down in size, going in and out of a wormhole that goes through the entire Earth. I even talked to Stanton Friedman about this. It's fast. I think you'll find it fascinating. So it's called A Sonoma County Phenomena.
Wow.
Wow. Thank you, Margie. You need more publicity around those.
Well, we're doing what we can, doing a lot of TV shows, radio shows, and website, all that. And my podcast will be coming up here in the next couple of weeks on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. So, and I did an interview with Bill and Wayne today, and that will be the first one that's up.
We've got 10 minutes left, so let's get some final messages in here for her. Questions? Don't be shy.
Hi, Margie.
Hi.
All right, so I've had it. I feel like I've had an entity, like you said, that you've had your whole life, and I have one too. And it always seems to be in my room or when I'm alone or going to bed at night. I hear it sometimes, and sometimes I feel it touches me, but I never actually see anything. And I was wondering what would be a good way to try to get in contact with it, or to, initiate any kind of thing.
Well, that would be you doing a meditation, and I would start outside of your room and before you go to bed at night.
Okay.
Find a comfortable chair in the house and meditate for 10 or 15 minutes and send that intention out and ask for, a telepathic communication where you can hear. And then if you're ready to see them, ask them to show themselves.
Right. That's what I wasn't sure about, if I was ready for it or not.
Well, if you are questioning if you're ready, you're not ready.
Okay.
But when you get to the point where you're, when you go out, when you're sky watching, do you ever see anything unusual that you think is a UFO?
Yes, I've seen. Yeah.
Okay. So you've done step number 1. All right. So now what I would do is ask them to come in closer.
Okay.
And that will get you acclimated to the fact that they can hear you, whatever you're thinking, and they'll respond. And they'll, come in closer. And then ask them to come in even closer to that, and then finally ask them to appear to you. Now, you might want to start with them appearing to you outside. It's not so scary if they're outside than if they're actually inside your house.
Right.
But just know that they are probably walking around inside and outside your house all the time. Anyway.
Yeah, I figured that.
It
seems like it's a good entity,
Yeah.
Comes off like it's got good vibes, but I'm not sure.
Usually they are. They're benevolent beings. And somebody asked earlier what they're doing here. Well, what I've been told is that they are here to help raise our consciousness. Okay. They're here to help humanity raise consciousness. And they have chosen a few people, which actually is a lot of people, but some of us to help others raise their consciousness. And there's many different ways of doing that. So yeah, that's really what their main agenda is. They also have told me that they protect the planet from negative forces. So there are some negative extraterrestrials, and there is a fleet basically around our planet, and it's, they're protecting us from most of that. They can't catch them all, and there are some things going on, like the bad abductions. People have bad experiences, but for the most part, they're very benevolent beings, and they're willing to help if you ask for it. They're willing to help you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Like your background.
Thank you.
I was going to ask you, were you talking about extraterrestrials, or were you thinking it was spiritual?
Well, that's another thing I'm not sure about. You know what I mean? I really don't know.
Well,
that's something, Jesse, that if you contact me by email, I can remote view that for you.
Okay.
Ooh,
all right. I have everything written down, so I'll definitely do that. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for asking. We have time for one more question. We just have a few minutes. Who's it going to be? You have to unmute your mic, remember.
There we go. I want to thank you very much for a wonderful evening, very informative. I'm particularly interested in the mantis. Did you say he or it was about 7 feet tall? Could you describe it a little bit more?
Oh, the mantis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He was at least 7 feet tall. He has large eyes on the side of his head. His arms are longer than normal humans, but it's a humanoid type body. It's kind of thin and muscular. And when I see him, he's always to my left side and not standing right in front of me. So I never get a full-on view, and I think that that's just me and my hesitation about seeing this very, very strange type of being. If that makes, that's my own little block. But as I've gone on in time, I see more and more each time. And the green color is kind of like a teal almost. It's a greenish teal color skin that he
Awesome.
has.
Well, thank you very much.
Mhm.
I'm a
Thank you.
clinical psychologist, and I wrote a book called Encounters about Abductions. And one of the cases was of a mantis type being that did a healing. So I was particularly interested when you brought that up.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up pretty much. And gosh, Margie, where did the time go? This was too much fun. I can't wait to talk to you afterwards. And a lot of people, I saw the notes, they'll be contacting you. So that's awesome. I'm glad. And I can't wait to read your books and be involved in that next class with you. So thank you so much for coming on tonight and being here with us. This has been great.
Well, thank you.
All you do for MUFON, because you're amazing. I've told you that a million times, but I'm a big fan.
Well, I'm a big fan of you too, Terry.
Well, thank you, but I just think the talent that you have and this gift that you have is just amazing, and how you can use it for ufology is just it's beyond. I never even had conceived a thought like that, really, until I heard your story. And it's just amazing to me. So thank you very much. And we certainly will have you back on. And I look forward to that.
Yeah, and I look forward to watching more of these shows. And look forward to next month.
Yeah, we'll have Katie Grabowski on next month. And everybody loves Katie. She's amazing. That girl is like you. I mean, you and Debbie, and there's so many of them that are so committed and constantly working. And it's all volunteerism. It just blows me away how people keep giving of themselves over and over again. It's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I just say it's my second full-time job, but this one's more fun.
Yeah.
And no pay. So.
That's okay. We don't care.
No.
All right. So I have I don't have my little clicker to go to my next slide, but I have terryling.com that if anybody is interested in going on to hear about a few of my personal experiences, I have maybe 150 on there. And I'd love to have you, like us and ask questions if you'd like. I'm there for you. And again, our next meeting is going to be March the 27th at 7 p.m. Central Time. And again, we'll have Katie Grabowski, who has been working with the Mars administration with MUFON, and she's the Colorado State Director. So that's going to be very interesting. And register for our next meeting at mufonmeetings.com. And thank you so much for coming. I'm so grateful to have you all on here with us. And thanks for your questions. And if you've got anything you'd like to ask me, please send it to DOM@MUFON.com. That's for Director of Memberships at MUFON.com. Thanks again and have a great night.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.